Dialogues are interactive conversations between characters and the player. Dialogues consists of lines, and every line can have multiple options that the player can select from. Now, there are different types of dialogues. For example, linear ones, where it's basically just characters talking, and there are branching dialogues where you can select different options and have different outcomes for the respective dialogue. Now, we have the dialogue manager that contains all dialogues currently active in the story. As you can see, we don't have any dialogues yet, but mainly you will create dialogues using scenes. Let's jump into this scene. And as you can see, in the upper left corner, we have this little scene menu where we can switch to different subcontexts. For example, we can switch to the dialogues. Now, let's create a new dialogue. Right now, dialogues don't have as many options, but that will change in the future. Every dialogue must have a name. It's mainly to keep the story manageable and make sure you can identify dialogues easily. Now, let's just call this our first dialogue. As you can see, this dialogue will be attached to our scene, the house. Let's save this. And we are now in the dialogue creation view. Here we can add lines. Lines represent text spoken by a character or narrated to the player. So let's start with hello there. ... You can add text. You can add an audio file. So basically voiceover. And we can add characters. As you can see, we have a little preview about how this would look like. And here we can add characters in the left, to the middle, or to the right. You can add as many characters as you want. Let's start with one here. Every character has different options what to display. So basically you can say that's the active speaker. The active speaker can have a name. If you select a character, like one from here, then this will basically be the name of the character. For example, let's take this. This is Maria. You can overwrite this here. As you can see, she was added here to the left. You can drag her around, put her anywhere you like. You can change how big she looks. For example, like this. And place her here. If you need to check behind the dialog box, you can disable it. You can also disable the background if it's distracting. So let's just save this right now. And as you can see, we now have our little dialog box here. And we can now either add another line or we can add options. But for now, let's go with another line. Let's add some text. General Kenobi. And use save and continue this time, and I will show you why shortly. Just go like this. So now we would have to set up the whole scene again with all characters that are currently in the scene. To make sure this doesn't become as tedious, I added this button here. If we click it, our previous character gets added, and we can now add another one. Let's add one here, and this time we'll just use a portrait. Let's go with this one. Put him right here. And this is the active speaker, of course. Again, you can give him a name. This time we have to give him a name because we just used an image. Let's save this. Now let's add some options. You can see options also have a text, but they don't have audio. Options basically represent what the player is saying. So options are what the player can say in any given moment. You also have the option, pun not intended, to remember the choice that was made here. It can be used in conditions and events that I will talk about in another video. For now, let's just say we will remember this. Also, every option can have conditions. For example, if you want a certain option to be displayed only when the player has a certain item or when a certain event happened in your story, then you can add conditions here. Great. As you can see, this is the option now. It is displayed a little bit differently from the dialog lines with another connection type. And you can see this means this option will be remembered. We can now add another option. B, just save this here. And then we can add a third option. Let's call it C. Great. Now we can decide what happens when the player selects one of these options. For example, let's say option C is just, can you repeat that? So we could just go back. Now option B, we can just say whatever. And option A, we will say, okay. Then go down a little. Now the illusion of choice, we can now just say, okay, if we added option A, then there will be just some additional dialogue, but everything will go into this one in the end. A word on the colors. Blue means this is the start line. Green means this is the end of the dialogue. We can now just test our dialogue right here. Here's our first line. We now have the second line with Henry speaking our options. We can now go back to the start. This is Maria again, Henry again, and then we can select other options and basically just go through with it. When we reach the last line, then the end dialog option appears and we can just exit our preview. So that's basically all that you need to know about dialogues right now. Dialogues can be triggered by using interactions and events. You can trigger them at the beginning of a scene or when interacting with a certain element in your scene. And you can also react on different dialogue options or different dialogue lines. For example, give the player items and check if a certain option has been selected previously. Oh, that's about it.